What's up, people? Sorry I didn't do a video yesterday. I'm gonna do Event Horizon eventually. I just gotta find the time to do it. Just couldn't do it yesterday. But today we're continuing with the Hellraiser franchise from talking with some people and looking into it. Essentially, this is like the last good one. But I am doing Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, which I remember at the time, because I saw it, like, I guess now it would have been 4 years ago. And I remember thinking, like, it wasn't as good, but I remember liking it. And I think I probably like it way more now. Like, the second rewatch, I think I really liked I liked the whole, the idea of basically splitting Pinhead into, like, because in the end of the second movie, where, because towards the end you see Elliot kind of come back, like his human form, but it splits, and then you have one side essentially is like I'll just say Cenobite Pinhead. And he basically must return back to his body before essentially he causes hell on Earth. And I actually like the different Cenobite designs, even the fucking CD one, which I'll admit that was 90s as fuck, but it works. The only problem, that's probably gonna be the title of this video. There's only one problem with this movie. No Kirsty. I think it was a bad call to get rid of her character. She could have been like the Laurie Strode, the Nancy Thompson, the Sidney Prescott of this franchise, and you get rid of her. The most you get is there's some like video, which clearly you could tell is like probably just unused footage from the second movie, because if you remember, she was in the psychiatric hospital in that one, so that's probably just one of the tapes. So I would just say it's just unused footage from that. It was weird to not have her in the movie, and apparently she comes back in the sixth movie. I don't know why you waited that long to bring her back, but we'll see. I haven't watched it, so but I get Joey is the name. She's like the reporter who's looking into this case. I think she was an okay character. It's just the whole time though I was thinking, I'm like, that could have been Kirsty's the whole time. Like easily, you could have rewritten her role, and that could have just been Kirsty, and it would have worked. You could have had it that Kirsty to kind of almost like forget about what happened with the events of the second film. She just becomes a reporter and just trying to live a different life. I think that could have been an interesting premise, but no. Granted, I do like the lore around this movie. I like the stuff with Joey and learning about her dad. I like that stuff. I like how violent this one gets. Like probably one of my favorite scenes is where Pinhead kills the people at the Boiler Room Club. Very much like, I love when horror killers, like, it's almost like they get to let loose. You know, it's like, you have the Freddy scene, the Freddy scene from Nightmare 2, the scene with Jason from the Freddy vs. Jason, etc. But like, I love when the killer just kind of gets to let loose, and I thought they really did a good job with the scene. The fucking way he killed the DJ with like all the fucking CDs was pretty brutal. But the way he was able to take them and essentially turn them into Cenobites, I like this movie. So overall, I think it's a pretty good entry in the franchise. From what I'm hearing, it is the last good one, because the next one is basically Pinhead in space. My God. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. Like, I like the horror around it. It's not as good as the first two, for sure, but I do think it's a solid like continuation of those two movies, and I feel like Doug Bradley still kills it as Pinhead. Like, he had some really good lines, and I really enjoyed the scene in the church. I don't know, just something about that scene just was like, to see Pinhead like just on the fucking podium in a church, just something about it just seemed right, So like overall, and I really like the set design and the practical effects and stuff. So all around, like, it's a fun entry. I would say probably the main canon for Hellraiser for me is probably the first three movies, and then granted I have to watch the other ones, but I'm probably gonna end up being like, yeah, Hellraiser 1 through 3 is the main ones for me. So I definitely recommend this one. You can watch like Hellraiser 1 and 2 back to back, and then you can watch like 3 not long after. I think 3 works. Probably if I were to give it out of 10, I'm probably 7.5. And I almost give it an 8. But yeah, overall I enjoy it. It's a decent entry into the Hellraiser franchise. Sucks that it basically doesn't get better from here. But yeah. Tomorrow I am gonna be reviewing Shrek, which I cannot wait. Because Shrek is probably like, if I were to do a list of like top like animated movies, Shrek would be on there. It would definitely be top 10. It probably would even make top 5, to be honest. Because Shrek, that first Shrek is so fucking good. The way it's like, I guess you kind of call it parody, but you know, the meta, but they do it in a way where it's not annoying. About like, you know, fairy tales, the cast alone. I remember seeing that in theaters the first time and being wow, like, and then you rewatch it later, like, my god, this movie is actually pretty adult. Like, it's not just a kiddie animated movie. Like, no, this movie is one like adult. It's all, like all ages can watch it. So can't wait to get back into the Shrek franchise. I figured since I watched Puss in Boots Last Wish a couple of weeks ago, I figure why not. They kind of wanted me to go back and dive into the Shrek movie, so yeah, I'll be doing that starting tomorrow. Yeah, but I definitely, like, I'll say it again, I recommend Hellraiser 3. It's actually not a bad entry. I remember saying it was like more schlock horror. I actually don't even. I kind of take that back. I don't think it really is. Like, the kills are definitely more abundant, but I do feel like you still have that Hellraiser story in there. So. And I think seeing Doug Bradley not in the fucking, the garb, the pinhead costume is pretty interesting. I think it's an interesting idea. Yeah. But, yeah, let's, get started. Sorry about that. Fucking hell. So the movie opens up. We meet this poor Joey, who's following a case where she sees this girl who's like ripped apart by chains. And then also, I think this is also where we learn that Pinhead is like split into 2 parts, you know, with this with Elliot in limbo while Pinhead is hiding out in the something of souls. Pillar of Souls. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Yeah, Pillar of Souls, which I really was like really good set piece throughout the movie. But DJ, it's like, I'll just say JD. I think that's the name of the character who owns this club called the Boiler Room. Dumps his ex-girlfriend Terry, who Joey picks up, you know, to help with her story, and she wants to find her because she saw essentially that girl die and like saw how the box works, and Terry gives her the box, and Terry, you know, while Joey lets her stay at her house for a few days. While this is happening, JD is having sex, you know, like some random. That's the other thing too. I think this movie's paced pretty good. Like, it doesn't. I don't feel like there's any slow points. That's like something that'll always be a plus for me. Like, I'm not like one of those old movie has to be short, but it is good that a movie has to have a good pace, because when your movie has awful pacing, that even if it's good, like granted not a lot, but I've seen movies where I would still say it's good, but it's just like the pacing's not the best. But yeah, I think they get the pacing right here. I mean, they get going pretty quick. So JD is having sex with like this random club girl, who's like looking around, and basically he kicks her out. Before he could do that, the pillar comes alive, chains come out of it, and end up ripping her apart pretty brutally. Even if like the CGI didn't look the best, but I thought it was pretty, like, they really, like, go hard on the kills in this movie. Like, I'll say that, like, they really don't hold back. While this is happening, Terry explains that she happened to find the Pillar of Souls, but, and the box, and I like that, like, this movie still tries to build lore, because even there's, throughout the film, Joey has, like, nightmares, or basically dreams about her dad, who was in Vietnam, and in one of them, she happens to stumble upon Elliot, and he explains like why. I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but while this happens, you kind of get like the similar kind of plot with like from the first two Hellraisers, where JD agrees. Well, initially tries to refuse the deal after Pinhead, who he's in the pillar, but he's just a head, so he can't really do anything. So he has to like be fed souls so he can come back in full form. So JD is basically forced, not forced. Pinhead promises him like all kinds of like gifts and all this stuff. So JD agrees, calls Terry over because Terry ends up having to go follow up a lead, which is late. This is where we get our Kirsty cameo, where she looks at a video and basically Kirsty talking about a little bit like how the box works. It's just a little thing so like Joey kind of gets the cliff notes of how the box works, essentially. It was cool. It was a fine cameo, but it is like, why you couldn't get her to come back? Whatever. Like, Joey's a fine character. I think she's serviceable. Part of me is like, you could still, I don't know, maybe the actress didn't want to come back, and I guess she comes back later on. She comes back at 6, so, but, so Terry runs away back to JD because she thinks like Joey like ran off on her and just was using her for a story. She goes back to JD, but JD's actually just trying to sacrifice her to Pinhead. It doesn't go well, but she manages to knock out, like punch out JD like with brass knucks, and she originally was gonna run off, but Pinhead promises her that he'll make her one of his minions and basically live in all kinds of pleasures if she sacrifices, because he basically just needs one more body to become whole again. So she feeds Pinhead to not Pinhead. She feeds JD to Pinhead, who's now back in full form, and this is where we get the slaughter in the boiler room scene, which I remember really liking this scene, like very much like it. Like I said, I love when you see like the slasher killer kind of get a chance to just let loose. I mean, Halloween 6 with Michael Myers in the doctor's room when he killed like all those doctors. It's like, I don't know, just something like about like just seeing the killers just like fucking let loose, like just on a bunch of people. It's just crazy. And I actually think it was creative. Like, he killed one guy, the DJ, with like a fucking bunch of CDs to his face, and then another guy like a bunch of like things through his head. Like, they don't hold back on the kills, man. Like, they go pretty hard on the kills in this movie. Like, that's what I love about it. So that is the one thing about Hellraiser. Like, there's a lot of chains and skin being ripped off and a lot of that. So, and a lot of hooks through faces. So it's one of those things. I can understand. Yeah, if you're squeamish, even if you're like you like horror, but you don't like the uber violence, yeah, you probably aren't, because they do go pretty hard on the violence. And one of the people who ends up getting killed is Joey's friend. I don't remember his name, but he ends up getting killed. But a lot of his Pinhead's victims end up turning into Cenobites, including one, the DJ, who has like just a bunch of just CDs in his face, which is gonna be the thumbnail of my video. And he's like, there's basically all the Cenobites just start letting loose on Earth. That's why I like the title. Like, the movie goes like, it goes pretty, like, when I mean to shit, not in a good way, not like the movie itself is shit, but like, it goes like, I really love the carnage, just all the Cenobites just fucking everybody up. And Joey has to try to run through it. And throughout the film, it is shown the box basically like repels the Cenobites. She tries to run into a church. Pinhead follows her there, and he ends up killing the priest. It's like that's kind of like crazy that they did that. Even though, yeah, like I said, the fucking Cenobite with the CDs in his face, that is pretty 90s. Because like throughout the film, there's like a band playing that's like clearly like this is like assuming grunge or because it's like 92, early 90s, I think, mid like somewhere in the 90s. This came out like early 90s. But Joey ends up running into before, yeah, I should explain that. Elliot explains that the only way to stop Pinhead is that he has to basically get into the body of the evil Pinhead and take control so she can, like, send him to hell with the box. Basically, that's the plan. So, she ends up solving the box back with the other Cenobites. They all manage to get sent back to hell, besides Pinhead, who ends up going in her head. Which I like that stuff, even though there are those parts of the movie that look like a music video at times. It's fine. She ends up luring Pinhead back to Elliot. We have a kind of a cool fight, and they end up molding together, and I like the effects where it looked trippy as fuck. And she ends up sending him back to hell, dumps the box in like, because this is like a construction site, and then ends up time jump. The building is built, and it looks like kind of like the box, basically. But overall, I really liked Hellraiser 3. I think this was a solid entry into the franchise. It's I still feel like, yeah, it's in the vein of Hellraiser. Yeah, it is a bit more on the more kill heavy, but I do think it's still a good film. You know, it sucks when you don't have the lead. Like, you have the lead who was in like 2 movies, and then she's just gone. Like, unexplained. Like, I don't even, because I'm going, I don't think there's not even like a throwaway line where they explain where Kirsty is. But ultimately, I don't hate Joey. She's fine. I like the whole Elliot, Spencer, and Pinhead being split. I thought that was an interesting way. So you could have, like, you know, Elliot on his own and still have Pinhead as his own entity. Kind of like a good way to follow up that ending of the second movie. And, like, probably my favorite thing in the whole movie is the set design. Or, like, character design more. Like, of the Cenobites and even, like, some of the newer Cenobites, even, you know, like I said, yeah, the CD one was very 90s, but it works. And it got some pretty brutal kills. He was, like, throwing fucking those CDs like fucking little ninja stars. Doug Bradley still kills it as Pinhead. Like, that's one of the best things of the movie. Is he carries it. Like, every scene, he still has, like, that grandiose fucking entrance. I would definitely recommend this movie. Like, I would say this is probably where, in my mind, Hellraiser, the actual continuity for me ends in terms of movie. Like, Hellraiser to me is a trilogy. We'll see about the 4 through, I don't know how many other movies there are, but we'll see how the others go. But in terms of main continuity, I consider just the Hellraiser 3 movies. Because I think, even in a way, this one has a good way it ends. You know, Pinhead's finally defeated. And, you know, this is a good conclusion. Hell on Earth, you know, Hellraiser 1 and 2 were still more local. I think I should have mentioned that. I liked how, like, they took it to a bigger scale. Like, those first 2 movies were very, you know, just